Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, they're not going to give me a break. Okay. Now, thanks to Anand, I thought I was going on at 10:30, so it was quite abrupt when Natalie started introducing me. But anyway, we are here to talk about workplace bullies today, right? Now, let's see. Workplace bullies, a 21st century challenge. Now, I'm sure most of you listen to the radio whenever you are driving into work each morning, right? Do you realize that recently, I can't remember which station it is, but there's been this, well, social advert, if you will, that talks about bullying, right? And this woman's voice suddenly comes up after a while saying, "Are you talking about me?" And the two guys actually get scared, right? Now, the reality of things is that bullying, we all think about the schoolyard. We all think about what happened in school, okay? You're a bit overweight, you get called fatty or whatever it is, right? Me, I got called skinny, all right? So that was bullying back then. It could end up being, schoolyard fights. A guy who gets involved in a fight will walk away and say that he's a hero and he's a gangster walking around like a big man in campus and so on and so forth, all right? So, yeah, being involved in a fight back then may have made your reputation in school. But in this day and age, it's all very different. Okay? There's a lot of mental torture, a lot of mental stress that befalls the victims, right? So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about workplace bullying. Now, to begin with, here are some key statistics. Okay, it's going to be a bit weird to look at this screen. It's a bit far. Eyesight getting a bit bad. I'm in my 40s. Okay, now, just to begin, let's talk about a little bit of statistics, okay? Now, we have 96% out of 2,000 over people who said that they have been bullied in the workplace. That's 96%. That's more than 2,000 people, right, who are saying that, yeah, I've been bullied. It is a very prevalent issue. It may not be so obvious, but it is there, right? It could be happening in every one of your organizations. Whether or not you are aware of it is another question altogether. Now, that was a quote from Forbes. Now, and if we look at the cost of bullying, right, in Australia, you're talking about the Human Rights Commission, so it's a governmental organization. They're talking about a loss of between 6 to 36 billion Aussie dollars. That's huge, right? That's absolutely huge. How do these costs come about, right? It can come about in a variety of ways. Now, when a person gets bullied, you get demotivated, you don't want to go to school. No, what am I talking about? I keep thinking back about this anecdote where this guy, the mother is trying to wake him up in the morning and he's saying, "You've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to go to school and all that." "No, mommy, I don't want to go to school. I refuse to go to school. They bully me. They don't treat me very nice. Everybody hates me." You have to go to school. You're the headmaster. All right. So there you go. So that's why I use school. But anyway, we are looking at people being demotivated, people refusing to go to work, go to office, whatever it is, because they just feel so stressed out when they have to go, right? So they just don't want to go. And when you go into work with that sort of a mindset, what happens? You become unproductive, right? You're not focused. Your turnaround times gets slowed down, right? You're given 10 things to do, you end up doing 2 things, and the rest of the day is like you are totally ineffective. And what's worse is that it ends up with a lot of people resigning. They can't take the torture, they can't take the stress, so they leave. And what happens when they leave? You guys, as the HR practitioners, as the leaders of the company, you then need to find replacements. Now, that whole cost of training them would have incurred some cost. The whole cost of finding a replacement is another ballgame altogether. So, are we talking about real figures when we talk about 3 to 36 billion across the entire workforce of a country? I would say yes. Why not? Right? When you add up all these hidden costs, it does add up to that, those billions of dollars, right? So, what we are talking about is a very real problem, right? And look at the last line. 78 to 80% of the bullies are bosses. I can hear a lot of laughter, yes. Are you all being bullied too? Go back and tell your bosses you can't bully me anymore, okay? All right. So, as what I was talking about earlier, all right, bullying in the traditional sense, okay, you're talking about fisticuffs, okay, everybody punching each other around and all that, right? It's quite obvious, it's quite out there. But fast forward to today, it's a whole different ballgame altogether, right? If I wanted to bully any one of you, all I need is your Facebook, to be your friend on Facebook, okay? I can post rude comments, I can say not very nice things, or I don't even need you as a friend on my Facebook. I just say so-and-so is a horrible person. I could think of worse words, but I'll probably get thrown out of the hall if I use those. But anyway, at the end of the day, this is what we are talking about. Today, in this day and age, everything revolves around, what do you call it? The use of the internet, right? Social media, Twitter, right? I'm sure all of you, you know, when there's something going on in town, you want updates, you just look at Twitter, you know, you get a step-by-step account of everything. And interestingly enough, when Dato' Nalini was giving her speech just now, again, through the use of internet, Anand and I were sitting over there and we were very interested in what Dato' Nalini was saying. And she's actually asked me to correct one thing. The mass case against Wan Saadi, while we were sitting down there, we were actually Googling it. Actually, I was just able to see who did the case now, okay? But anyway, in Googling, we discovered that there's a federal court decision now on that very matter, and Dato asked me to let you all know that the case has actually been overturned by the federal court. So the federal court basically said that, I know I'm digressing, but just to share with you guys, the federal court has basically held that in that case, there was no unfairness because the legal counsel was in the room, notwithstanding that the claimant was out of the room, right? And what the federal court effectively said is that, look, if the legal counsel in the room needed to take some time to get instructions from his client, he should have asked for that. He did not. He just proceeded with the cross as is, okay? So the federal court has viewed that it's okay for proceedings to be held in camera because at the time when the request was made, there was no objections from the claimant. Okay? Just to share that with you guys. Okay, now coming back to this. So, do I need to be face-to-face with you and punch you in the face so as to be a bully? No, I don't. Okay? I can sit in the comfort of my own office or in my own house or whatever it is, use the computer, you can be sitting in your own home or office or whatever, and I can bully you, all right? This is bullying in the 21st century. Now, as far as Malaysia goes, we don't have any strict laws on bullying, okay? At least not directly. So there is no anti-workplace bullying law or anti-bullying law or anything of that sort. Now, so what did I do? Again, using the internet. This is some stuff that I managed to find. Now, the Australian Fair Work Act, it provides a definition there. Bullying occurs when a person or group of people repeatedly behaves unreasonably towards a worker or a group of workers at work. The behavior creates a risk to the health and safety. Now, please note the following, yeah? But bullying does not include reasonable management action carried out in a reasonable manner. Now, what does that mean? You know, interestingly, recently I was asked to do a questionnaire with one of the foreign legal counsel for a client, okay? And one of the things they asked me was retaliation policies, anti-retaliation policies, okay? Their question was, can a poor performer use anti-retaliation policies to say that, look, you can't put me on a PIP. You can't discipline me because I'm a poor performer. It's gone to that extent. Your employees are no longer, okay, yes sir, 3 bags full. Anything you say, I will do, okay? And I will obediently sit down and listen to you. Employees are a lot more aware of their rights these days, okay? Employees will use everything that they can to come at you. Reasonable or unreasonable? That remains to be seen. And at the end of the day, a lot of it may end up at the industrial court, for the industrial court to see whether it's reasonable or not. I don't know about you guys, but as far as I'm concerned, if you talk about benefit of doubt, that's usually going to swing in favor of the employee, right? So what do you need? You need very, very strong policies. You need very, very clear evidence before you can embark on action against your employee, right? Now, so, Australian Fair Work Act, very clear. It talks about what is bullying, but it specifically excludes management action, which is carried out in a reasonable manner, okay? Now, on the right column, what you see is something called the Workplace Bullying Institute. Now, I couldn't tell for sure, but what I can perhaps surmise is that the Workplace Bullying Institute in the US, if you type in workplace bullying in your Google search and all that, this is the first hit that you'll get, meaning to say that this has probably the most hits globally, right? That's why it appears first. Now, the interesting thing is that it is not actually a government organization. From what I can gather, my understanding is that it is actually something akin to an NGO, all right? And the interesting thing when you read about its history is that it was set up by this very loving husband who decided to put up this initiative and lobby for workplace bullying laws in the US because his wife got bullied at work. Why I don't hear some, oh. Okay. Yes, so he set up this institute along with the wife to basically educate people on workplace bullying. And he's become very popular. He actually speaks at a lot of functions. He's invited to a lot of seminars and so on. And actually, he's going around various states to lobby for laws to be put in place to prohibit workplace bullying. So that's a very interesting thing. Now, for them, the definition of workplace bullying is bullying as repeated health-harming mistreatment of one or more persons, the targets, by one or more perpetrators. Abusive conduct that is threatening, humiliating, intimidating, and so on and so forth. Now, if you look across at both, all right, there's one word that occurs, that is common, and that's the word repeated, all right? So it is a constant flow. If I walk up to a colleague today or one of my subordinates and say, stupid or what? Okay, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that, right? But, you know, just saying it one off in the spur of the moment, that's not bullying. It's insulting, but it's not bullying, right? But if constantly, every day, regardless of how well a person does, I go up to that person and say, you stupid or what, okay? This is crap, okay? This is rubbish, okay? I'm belittling the person. I'm constantly saying these things to demoralize, to demotivate, all right? So when you have that consistency, then it becomes bullying, okay? Now, let's look at the next slide. What constitutes bullying? So we have had, in the earlier slide, we saw the definitions in a very general manner, okay? All well and good. But let's look at some practical examples. What is it? Okay? Taking credit for another's work. Very common, okay? Boss tells you, go do this, do that, all right? Presentation to the board of director. Oh, I think you should do this. I came up with this idea. I did this, I did that, all right? Your credit, flush down the toilet, okay? Year-end appraisal, what have you done? Nothing, okay? Because all the credit has gone to the boss. Finding fault with work when there is none, or nitpicking. Finding fault with work when there is none, not that there's no work, there's no fault. That's what I mean, okay? So again, you know, sometimes it's in my career, the worst cases to handle or the most difficult cases to handle is always when there's really nothing wrong with the employee. It's just that the boss doesn't like his face, okay? And I'm sure all of you as HR practitioners, you've come across that. A line manager comes to you and says that, I can't stand this fella, get rid of him. Why? Because I can't stand him. Yeah, but I need some reasons. No, he's crap at his work. Then you look at the appraisal from the other boss, outstanding. Typical, isn't it? Okay? So you have this. It's just a clash of personalities. And when you dig and dig and dig, really there's nothing wrong. And when you can't find anything wrong, then that last word comes in, nitpicking. Okay? He gave me the report, instead of font 14, he gave me font 12. So my eyesight very bad, I cannot read. Okay? Substance-wise, everything is fine. It's perfect. But, you know, things like this. Or rather, he passed up his report 5 minutes late. You got it, right? Your presentation to the board is tomorrow, right? Okay? Stuff like that. So it goes down into all these nitty-gritty things of really non-issues, just to formulate something to go against the guy. But when it comes to you guys, can you terminate for things like this? The answer is no, all right? And you guys have to tell the line manager, I'm sorry, but this is not good enough, right? Okay, ridiculing a person because of the way he or she dresses or talks. Okay, this may not be work-related, but in a work environment, everybody is supposed to work happily, harmoniously together and all that. But if you get some guy who constantly is like, ooh, you look like auntie today, why you dress like that, okay? Why your shoes so ugly, why your dress this color, blah, 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 all right? So it creates a very uncomfortable feeling in the office, right? And ultimately, such conduct should be discouraged, all right? Use of abusive language, well, very common, all right? You have bosses who lose their temper, and to say you stupid or what is like the lowest threshold you can find, okay? All other words will come out, all the things that are represented by signs if you type it out, okay? So there you go. So you have all these things that will occur. Now, again, my emphasis is that, yes, bosses do get upset when things don't get done right. Bosses may lose their temper. We all may get scoldings, okay? We all may be put on the carpet for doing something wrong. But at the end of the day, when it's constant, when the abuse is on a daily basis, okay, it then becomes bullying, all right? Now, the next one, number 5, is also very typical. Management meeting is called, boss is sitting there, everybody is around the table. Young, you gotta be kidding me, why you so stupid, you go and do like that, all right? In front of the whole team, all right? Is there a need to do that? There is no need to embarrass, okay? But again, this is something that typically happens. I've seen it. In my work, not that I do that or I get this, but yes, clients come to me, constructive dismissal claim, all these are always the elements, okay? So-and-so has embarrassed me in front of my peers and subordinates. Worse yet, it's not even in a management meeting. Boss comes out of his room, open office concept, all right? Yells at the top of his voice, how could you do this? You should know better. How long have you been in practice? Stuff like that, okay? The clerks, the secretaries, everybody's there. Everybody can hear it. Where does the person want to put his face? Under the table, okay? But if the table got no hole for him to hide, then sorry lah, okay? So at the end of the day, these are all elements of bullying, okay? Now, the last one, undermining a person, is, as per the example I just gave you, coming out and yelling that a person has done something wrong in front of all the colleagues, but isolating a person socially and physically, right? Now, I'm sure many of you have had this situation where you're dealing with a poor performer, okay? So this guy, not doing very well. What do we do with him? Put him in cold storage. Don't give work. Honestly, that's human nature. As it is, I give you work, you can't do it, I'm not going to give you more. But as HR practitioners, what must we do? Okay, if you have a poor performer, you have to deal with it head on. If you isolate and you stop giving work, the guy is going to be happily sitting down and reading newspapers, okay? And at the end of the day, you are never going to be able to test his performance. You're never going to be in a position to be able to say that, look, I've given this guy a chance of improving. I've given him a PIP. He's failed it miserably. There's my basis to terminate him. Okay? But typically, bosses are like that. All right? The guy's a poor performer, so okay, I'm not going to give him any more work. In a case many years ago, not only don't want to give work, I put you into this other room, which is upstairs, which is under renovation. One table there, one chair there, no computer, no phone. Okay? So how are you going to even assess the guy? You're going to assess the guy by seeing how clean he keeps his desk, is it? Right? So the concept here is that you need to constantly monitor situations. If it's a poor performer, you need to give him that opportunity of improvement. And how do you do that? By giving him work. All right? All right. I'm making very good time here, so you'll have a lot of time for questions afterwards, or tea. Let's move on. Now, perhaps before I go to the next slide, one thing I'd like to touch on is the difference between bullying and harassment. Okay? It's not in the slides, but now, again, research on the internet and so on and so forth, you have various definitions, you have various views expressed about the difference between bullying and harassment and so on. All right? All you need to type in is difference between bullying and harassment. Okay. Now, but what comes out? Typically, the response that you'll get, the answers that you'll get, will demonstrate bullying as what we have seen earlier, repeated conduct, all right, which is aimed at, what do you call it? Mistreatment and so on and so forth, all right? Now, but how harassment is segregated is typically that when it comes to harassment, there is usually an element of discrimination. Okay? Discrimination in terms of race, ethnicity, I think I got that wrong, but never mind. But religion, and the most common one, sex. Okay? So that's why you have things like sexual harassment and so on. Now, of course, we have laws on sexual harassment and in the Employment Act, but if you look at it, all the Employment Act says is that if an employer gets wind of a sexual harassment complaint, go and investigate. That's it. Okay? And if you look at the definition of sexual harassment in the Employment Act, it is very, very weak. It's practically nothing. So what do? Go back to the Code of Conduct for the eradication of sexual harassment in the workplace. I think that's a more useful guide, okay? So anyway, coming back, harassment and bullying. Now, so when you do your research, what seems to be the case is that harassment has that element of discrimination. Now, I think that, personally, I think that there are overlaps. Bullying and harassment, pretty much the same thing, okay? But one key difference, harassment typically would result in an offense being committed, okay? Bullying may not. That's a key thing I want you guys to remember, okay? When you think about it, the examples we went through, taking credit for another person's work, can I send you to jail for that? Okay? Cold storaging a person, putting him in isolation. Like when we go back to school, I don't want to friend you, okay? Don't want to friend this fella. Is that an offense? It's not. It makes the person feel miserable. It makes the person feel horrible, but it is not an offense. Go on the other extreme, harassment, okay? Every day the guy is harassing you, go out with me lah, go out with me lah, come and date me lah, you're very sexy today, blah, 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 alright? Now, that can become criminal intimidation even to a certain extent, okay? So there is an element of an offense being committed there, as opposed to bullying, okay? Okay. moving on. So, as what I mentioned earlier, in this day and age, no need to lay a finger on you. I can bully you via the computer. Heck, not even the computer, I can bully you using this, right? So, very easy to bully. Now, you can see that I've set out some descriptions, leaving provocative messages on social media such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. Now, I don't know if you guys recently read this article. I confess that I read this Mail Online thing. It's like a British tabloid which has UK, US, Australia, and all that in it. And sometimes they come up with very interesting articles. I think about a month ago or 2 months ago, there was this lawyer, young lawyer, about 27 years old, who sent an invite on LinkedIn to this senior solicitor. The solicitor is a very well-known guy in the legal circles. This was in the UK, right? So happily, she sends off this invite for him to be his friend on LinkedIn. Okay. Actually, it's not friend. Sent him an invitation to connect. All right. Friend is Facebook. Okay. Now, so she sends him that invite. Okay. He responds, accepting the connection invite, and says that, I know this is probably politically incorrect or something along these lines, yeah? I know this is politically incorrect or whatever it is, but your picture is stunning. Okay? He said that, all right? Now, can I have a show of hands how many of you think it's wrong for him to have responded that way? Show of hands? None of you think it's wrong? Wow. Oh, I have one. Okay. Okay. Before I come to whether it's right or wrong, well, I'm not going to judge, but at the end of the day, what did she do? Okay. She basically took a snapshot of that posting that he made, added on her response, which was a scathing attack on him, saying that, look, this is a professional portal for connection. By doing this and commenting on the picture, you are taking away all the emphasis on the qualifications of a person, right? Now, there are two schools of thought currently. I respect your view that you think it's wrong, okay? It was, I would say, inappropriate. That's my personal view. But what she did was that she splashed it all over the internet and it went viral. So the guy now doesn't know where to put his face, okay? But this is what the internet can do. This is what cyberbullying is all about. At the click of a mouse, it can go viral and your entire reputation can go down the drain. Okay? Now, right now, as far as that incident goes, there are still news reports every now and then. She's being invited to speak at all these feminist conferences and so on. And she had her reasons for outing him the way that she did. Okay? Now, of course, he's not giving very much publicity to this. Okay? He's just quietly stepped aside, right? But this is what I mean. Cyberbullying. Right? So this guy may have built his reputation for the past 30 years, and with a click of a mouse, his reputation has gone down the drain. Sure, he may have his supporters right now, but can you imagine what he's going through? Okay? I'm not saying that what he did was right. Okay? But I'm talking about what we saw earlier from Datuk Nalini's speech, proportionality. Personally, I feel that she could have just told him, hey, look, you know, I think this is very inappropriate, all right? I don't think you should have made such a comment and all that. But for her, it was key to establishing, how shall I put it? Basically putting it out there and showing people that, look, men shouldn't be viewing women in this way based on their looks or whatever it is. Look at our credentials, which I think there is a point to that. But again, on the basis of proportionality, I think it went a bit far, right? She may not have intended it to go so far, but it did. So that's that, okay? Now, so what do we have here? We have threatening or humiliating a person has never been easier. Yes, like I said, click of a mouse, right? Bullies can also reach a wider audience. So I don't need to just say it to you in your face. I don't need to yell it out to the people around you. One click of the mouse, I can tell the whole company. I'm dealing with this issue for a hotel, okay, where subordinate not happy with boss, okay, claims that she's being harassed, but every time there's an investigation, nothing surfaces, all right, and it's just run-of-the-mill instructions and all that. But at the end of the day, when she writes to the big boss, copied to everybody else in the whole wide world. Okay? So it becomes very difficult, right? Public humiliation. We talk about bullying resulting in loss of money. We talk about bullying that can create unproductivity. But the reality of it, right? The reality of it is that bullying can actually lead to death. How many articles have we read in the US, all right, for example? Kids being bullied in school commit suicide. I won't put past something like that to happen if it's bullying in the workplace. Okay? Remember I was talking about how boys, they would be like in school, get into a fight. Ooh, I got into a fight, okay? This is my battle scar, this is my battle scar and all that. Battle scars heal. That same gangster, girlfriend breaks up with him. You see whether he's still as brave as ever? He'll probably be hiding in one corner and sniffing away. All right? Emotional scars, in essence, are actually much worse than physical scars. Right? Okay. So, cyberbullying, basically, that's your 21st century bullying. That is what's happening these days. And this is something that needs to be looked at. Now, again, when I started, we talked about laws. Well, in Malaysia, 0. All right? But if you look at Australia's Fair Work Act, effective from 1st January 2014, a worker who reasonably believes that he or she has been bullied can apply to the Fair Work Commission for an order to stop the bullying. Now, the interesting thing is that when you read a little further onto this Fair Work Act, the Fair Work Act itself is not like, how shall I put it? It's not like the industrial court handing down an award saying, stop it, all right, or giving you money or whatever it is. The Australian Fair Work Act, to my understanding, can hand down an order for the bullying to stop, but if the bullying does not stop, okay, then the individual who has that order in hand can actually launch civil proceedings against the bullies and can end up with huge compensation, okay? And bear in mind, as employers, that could extend to you as well, okay? Well, but that's Australia. So for now, you all don't have to worry because no laws here, okay? All right, but when we talk about cyberbullying, there are actually laws, okay? You're looking at things like the Communications and Multimedia Act. There are provisions in the CMA which prohibits the posting of things that are indecent, obscene, false, menacing, or offensive in character with intent to annoy, abuse, threaten, or harass, right? So you do have certain laws out there that can protect. But the reality is, how many people even go to that extent? Your employee who's being harassed and bullied and all that, it's like, thank you very much, I'm leaving, goodbye, that's it, okay? You've lost a talented employee, you've got to find a replacement, okay? Bully is still walking around, happy as a hummingbird or whatever it is, okay? And next employee comes in, same thing happens. Where is your company going to go? Your company is not going to progress, right? So, this brings me to the next slide. What can an employer do? You guys are going to be like, oh yeah, okay, tell us something we don't know. But really have clear policies to prohibit bullying in place, okay? Your policies need to be precise. Well, when it comes to things like that, I would say yes. Have it very clear to say what is prohibited conduct and make it clear in your policies that you will not condone any bullying conduct, okay? You know, your first paragraph of your employee handbook will always have what I call the rah-rah statement. It's like, oh, you're joining this wonderful company, everything is going to be great, okay, we have a wonderful working environment, blah, 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 blah. All right? Make sure it works, okay? And in doing so, you need these supplementary policies to say that, look, you know, we don't condone bullying. All right? No point in having your rah-rah statement and then the next thing you know is everybody there is like, living under fear every day. All right? What else? Grievance procedures. Remember in the first slide, the main bullies, bosses. Okay? Natalie just laughed. Daman, you bullying her? Okay. So you need a proper grievance procedure. You need an outlet. You need a place where employees can go, all right, to lodge their complaints. Maybe even if you wanted to, do it on an anonymous basis so that you are aware that things are going on. But when push comes to shove, of course, somewhere down the line when you know that there's a problem with one of the bosses and you need to get rid of him, people need to come forward. You know, by that time, if you've got enough to go around, it's always numbers, strength in numbers, right? So if you have one or two guys who are complaining, they may not be daring enough to come and complain. They'd rather resign and leave, okay? But if you've got 10 fellas together, you've got 15, 20 of the employees who are all facing the same thing, then they may be more willing to come up and say that, look, this is what we've been going through. But you need to start somewhere. You need to get people to talk, right? So you have your grievance procedures. Now, of course, exit interviews, that's where people are more willing to talk. I'm going already, so I'm going to tell you all about what I've been going through. This place is horrible. It really, really sucks, okay, because of so-and-so, right? But that's too late. You've already lost the guy, right? But nonetheless, I would still say go for it because it may help you to manage in future. Hotlines that are confidential, as what I mentioned, right? So that people feel the necessary comfort level to bring it up, right? Now, policies are a must, but like I said here, okay, they're great, but you must be holistic. While you have your policies that say, come and tell us all about bullying, you also need to tell them that, hey, wait a minute, okay, if you tell me, don't worry, you'll be protected. It's like witness protection program. Or take, for example, the Whistleblower Protection Act, okay? Now, please don't be under any misconception that the WPA applies in the context of a private company. It doesn't, okay? The Whistleblower Protection Act only applies if the complaint or the whistleblowing is made to an enforcement agency. HR is not an enforcement agency, okay? Much as I know a lot of you think it is. Right. Counseling sessions, okay? What I'm talking about is counseling for the bullied as well as the bullies. If you know that this guy is a bully, you need to sit him down and you need to tell him, look, change. All right? Years and years ago, in the late 90s, I did this case. It was a relatively small company, about 10, 15 employees, okay? They brought in this HR chap, okay? HR chap comes in, about 70% of the fellas resigned, okay? And you're talking about 10, 15 people. The company was left with like 5 people there. After they managed to kick him out, the fellas all started applying back to come back and work, okay? So, but now, the reason why I'm talking about this case is that counseling sessions. So the guy came in, everybody started leaving, okay? What I had was that it was a small company, so no strong HR. The HR guy was the one causing all the problems. So at the end of the day, all the company did was to issue him a letter to say that, look, this is, we are giving you notice under your employment contract. Here's your notice. Goodbye. All right. You are being terminated. No reasons. But when I went to court, I had the general manager, the deputy general manager, both testify and say that, look, on this day we sat him down and counseled him. On this day we sat him down and counseled him. So there were these consistent counseling sessions telling the guy, look, you've got to change. We're losing our entire workforce. Hello, wake up, all right? So, no, not meant for you all. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so we had to lead evidence of all this counseling, and that evidence was what made the case. All right? Typically, if you tell me I have to go to court with a letter that just says that, here's your notice of termination, goodbye, all right? I'm going to tell you got no case. Because no reasons, right? You always need reasons for termination. But because we managed to lead all the evidence of what happened, of all the counseling sessions, of opportunities for the guy to change, and he did not, we won. Okay? So remember that. IT policies. I'm sure many of you, especially in the larger companies, you have IT policies, okay? So your IT policies become very, very critical, all right? No offensive content, no humiliating content, blah, 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 blah. Of course, no pornography and all that as well, okay? Another thing that perhaps I'm going a bit off topic, but also critical in your IT policies now is your right to monitor, okay? You need that in place. Why? Because remember, we now have the PDPA in place, right? So with the PDPA, you need to have notified your employees that, look, I'm going to nosy about your emails and all that. Of course, personal Google email, Yahoo email, don't go and look, okay? But office issued, anything that goes through your service, always have that right to monitor, okay? Now, where are we? Social media accounts, that's generally private, but at the end of the day, if you need to, if it's out there in the public, okay, there's a statement which is against your company, tarnishes the reputation, or you look at it and it amounts to bullying, all right? My view is that you can act on those things as well, okay? Finally, be aware of things people say and behaviors around you. Interestingly enough, in an article I read on workplace bullying, You know, things like someone mentioning in the corridor, oh, so and so, don't worry lah, he's so well protected, no, nothing will happen to him. Okay? Statements like this could suggest that that person is a bully. Okay? Or so and so, the management doesn't dare to touch him. So and so, he's immune from anything. Okay? Those are signs. So be aware and listen to what's going on around you. So, always remember, put in place policies that prohibit bullying, enforce those policies. No point in having policies if you're not going to enforce them. Lots of companies have handbooks, have thick handbooks, all right? But at the end of the day, nothing is enforced, all right? And of course, when you enforce it, you must be consistent. It's not enforce it against this person, but not against that. Then that becomes discrimination, right? Have anti-retaliation policies, and poor performance must not be allowed to hide behind these anti-retaliation policies. So you need a balance there, okay? You have poor performance, put them through the PIP. I am sure that the industrial court will be able to see the difference between bullying and performance management. But of course, you do not victimize a person. Don't like his face, put him on a PIP. It does happen, I know that. All right? So if you look at the next slide, now, if you look at the 4 boxes surrounding the middle box, okay, all 4 boxes amount to bullying, and they also amount to constructive dismissal claims. Okay? I isolate you. Okay? I don't give you work. I constantly nitpick at your work even though you're doing great. Okay? I give you threats of unwarranted punishment, like, I don't think it's working out, you go on like that, I'm going to sack you, okay? Nothing happens. But all these things, if you look at it objectively, all right, these are the very foundations of a constructive dismissal claim. Society is getting alert. Society is aware. And sooner or later, I would think that the ministries would also enforce it under OSHA. Right? You have examples elsewhere in the world. It's not difficult, right? So, as a conclusion, we are talking about OSHA, talking about health and safety, all right? And this includes mental health. And like I said, OSHA could be enforced. The bottom line is that, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have a policy in place, my very strong suggestion to you is to put one in place. Because as I say here, right, it may cost you a bit of money to go and consult lawyers and get advice and so on and so forth, but it's going to cost you a lot more if you don't do anything about it, right? Okay, I think we have 1 minute and 27 seconds left. Any questions?
Hi, is there any questions from the floor? Could you raise your hand and we'll get the microphone over to your place. Going once?
It's either I was that good or I was that boring.
Or whether you do bully them. Going twice? Okay, so, thank you, Mr. Hon Cheong.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Now, I hear the rumbling tummies now. So it's time for our short tea break for 30 minutes. Be back here by 11:30. But before we go, just a couple of announcements. Number one, for those of you who are intending to claim for SBL HAS scheme under the HRDF, please go to the registration counter and get a form, because without that particular form, you will not be able to proceed with your claim. Second announcement will be with regards to your parking ticket. Now, there is a flat rate at RM7. Please make your way to the registration counter. There will be someone to assist you on that. The third announcement will be there are several booths on Pyramid 2 where your tea break is going to be served. So feel free to walk around. As I mentioned earlier, there's Tuned Insurance, which provide the free dental treatment for 250 ringgit for one person and up to 1,000 ringgit for the company, including your family as well. Sako Brothers, who is offering 400 ringgit voucher for costume, for clothes. And yep, and feel free to walk around. There's other booths as well. So we'll start the break now. Thank you. We'll see you at 11:30.